Hey guys, welcome to the Quick Talk Podcast, the only show handcrafted for small business entrepreneurs looking to explode their business. It's time to get your mind right so you can get your grind right. Are you ready?
Who owns IKEA is the fifth wealthiest man in the world, and he still flies economy and drives a Volvo. You know, you don't have to draw big bucks because that means that you've made it, you know, but what you want to do is make sure that the business that you build makes it.
Thank you, everybody, for joining me. This is Josh Latimer coming to you from Costa Rica, and I am here today, as you all know, to share you no fluff, straight to the point business insights from super interesting people from all over the world. Now, today is a special show, at least for me, because I get to talk to my friend Perry Tate. Perry's one of those guys that you can't get a hold of because he's traveling the world, doing crazy stuff all over the place. Originally, I think from Australia. He lives in China now. He's the CEO and founder of Future of Cleaning, and he's well known in the window cleaning space because you almost can't be in this business and not know who Perry is. But for those of you who don't, he's built a multi-million-dollar business from almost nothing after moving continents to China. I can't wait to talk to him to get inside his head because he's not just a big personality. He's got a lot of really smart business sense he's going to share with us. Perry, how are you doing in China? I'm so grateful that you're here with me today.
Mate, I'm sensational. It's actually a fascinating place to live. It's probably more American than America if you think about, you know, the Starbucks and KFC and McDonald's, and thank God it's Friday, and you know, Walmart was here for a good bit and Best Buys, but they came and went. But yeah, it's and like we've got trains that travel at 200 miles an hour in between every city.
Wow.
You know, it's a fascinating place. Fascinating. And clean, super clean, no graffiti. Everybody's tidy. You don't see a lot of poverty in the cities. Obviously there's 1 billion people in poverty in the countryside.
Well, that's one of the things I noticed about Costa Rica was that it's very westernized in a lot of ways, especially in the city. And, you know, you wouldn't think of that. You just kind of think of an ox cart down a dirt road full of vegetables or something. But these people know what they're doing. They're on Facebook. They're living their life, and they're plugged into the grid kind of like everybody. So it's cool, though. I love just the idea of an elastic economy, you know, this global workforce. I don't know about your company, but I have a graphic designer in Ireland. I have another one in Minnesota. I have a guy working with me closely on some technology stuff from Arkansas. My development team's from Michigan. and that's normal now. How weird is that?
Is that all with Upworks, like the old Elans?
Well, I've used those in the past. None of those particular people are through that particular channel. Okay. But those businesses are good because they're connecting you with competent professionals. And you know, I don't want to get too far in the weeds because we're really talking to cleaners today, but there's so much opportunity.
There is.
There's so much opportunity everywhere. And to dive into it first, Perry, I want to get some more backstory about you, if you could, maybe a little bit about your upbringing, how you got to where you are. I know you've been in the cleaning business in Australia for a time, but now you're in China. You moved there as a single dad. You built this ginormous 7-figure business in a super niche industry. How the heck did that happen? Can you unpack that a little bit?
Unpack it. It's a big package, isn't it? Hey, I'll tell you what. I think, you know, from a personality point of view, then I've always been, you know, sort of prepared to take risk, and I've always been a salesperson. I've studied sales, you know, my whole life. So, you know, I feel I'm a professional salesman, and that's my core passion is, you know, sales and marketing and sales marketing. So, what happened was I ended up being a single dad. I think if we go back to maybe the year 2000, 2001, I had a couple of kids that came and lived with me. And then I needed to be in a position where I could support them. And I had a super partner at the time, but that's sort of by the by, because getting kids and keeping partners who don't have kids with you is another story. And so I ended up selling franchises for VIP Home Services, which are cleaning franchises. And so a couple of years into doing that, somebody came along to me and said, "Hey, I've seen these water-fed poles in the UK, and they're really interesting. And could we get involved?" And we didn't even sell a window cleaning franchise at that time. It was all just home cleaning, and they sort of took the window cleaning leads as they came in. And so I ended up going to the UK, meeting with Craig Morlam, who's really the founder of the pure water technology in the world, and spending a week with Craig and Ruben in Ionics. And I did the British Window Cleaning Academy course in January 2006 with Craig. And he kind of opened my eyes massively, to the potential of the industry. So it kind of went all the way back then. And then I set up, we went to a trade show and we spent about 30 grand setting up this amazing stand, and had a scissor lift with the door up, 35, 40 feet in the air, as high as we could get it, and poles and a pure water system that we'd developed and all that. And we got all these inquiries, and everybody was fascinated, and it was a great display, but nobody wanted to buy it. But what happened is that a whole lot of people came to me and said, "Hey, we don't really think that'll work, but if you want to clean our windows, we'll let you go out and do it." So we ended up, not being in the supply business and being in the window cleaning business with the stock that we had and the system that we designed. We had to become our own customer. Yeah.
I mean, that's a pivot right there, right? I mean,
Yeah.
You started in one path and kind of, for survival purposes, kind of swung and so you actually tried to start in the manufacturing equipment business, switched back into the service business, right?
Yeah. And we imported some poles, the Xtel poles that was a range back then. They were fiberglass and hybrid. So we imported them, but nobody would buy them. So we had them sort of mothballed. We'd paid a deposit on them, actually. And so they held them for us. And then in 2009, Ionics came to Australia, and then they started to get a bit of traction. So we had, it was about 250 poles of different lengths sitting around. And so we sort of got back into selling, and in 6 months, we'd sold all of them. And then I realized it was sort of game on, but the design was wrong. So it kind of frustrated me that these fixed length poles with internal tubes. And I think the point that really started Reach It was, if you had a 30-foot pole and you wanted to get a 40-foot pole, you'd have to buy another 40 feet instead of just 10. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if somebody had a 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5-story pole, that would be 1 and 2 is 6, 10. That's 15 stories worth of poles.
Right.
But they only want to reach 5 stories.
Exactly.
And I thought, oh my God, there's something just so wrong with this.
Well, I can speak from personal experience on that, actually. I got into the water-fed pole game in my personal business really early. Like, I jumped on it as soon as it was available, and I paid like $2,500 for like one pole. Like, it was so expensive in the beginning.
Yeah.
But I made that investment, and it was well worth it, by the way. But yeah, you're right. There's no flexibility back then, and you've kind of changed that now.
Yeah, that's what we did. But we actually, most people don't know that we got out of the business. When we first came to China, I came with another opportunity to sell heat exchange, like systems like solar and hot water systems for 5-star hotels and hospitals. I'd been working on that part-time as well as with my kid and the window cleaning business and selling franchises. So I came with him, but he was like an Aussie Chinese guy. And then we got our first big sale about nearly a year after I moved here, or maybe 9 months. And it was a big 5-star hospital in Shugong in Shandong province. And so anyway, it came time for me to get my commission, and he made the decision that he wasn't going to pay me. So then I was kind of left high and dry. I'd kind of burnt 2 years on this project and a year of just draining every cent we had, and we're kind of strapped completely. And I had a baby on the way. That's another one.
Oh my word! Wow.
So I went back to Australia and sold my tool shed and my last car. Like, I had a 1995 old 4-wheel drive that we used to use on the holidays and stuff, and brought back to China $10,000. And I had my son with me. He was like 17 at the time, and so he'd already left school and all that. So I said, "Come on, let's go and start a business together." So
Unbelievable. I mean, there's a lot that you just laid out there. But the two things I'm taking notes. One, I wrote down the word risk, and then I also wrote down the word, why do people feel bad for being salespeople? Because in the very beginning, you said you consider yourself a professional salesperson, and this conversation from here forward, it doesn't have to be about specifically window cleaning for a while. I want to dive into business in general, and people are terrified to take intelligent risk, and they're terrified to be a sales guy. Why do people feel bad for just being excited about the stuff they sell? Why are we so passive, and how big of an effect can it have on our business if we change that thinking, Perry?
My personal belief on that, because I have thought at great length about that, because obviously when I tell people I'm a salesman, I get treated with the stigma of that. And I kind of beat my chest, and I'm quite proud that I understand. I think I understand it. And I think it's whether you know yourself. So if you trust yourself, then you're trustworthy and you're solid. And I think that I'm highly trained. I've done 3 times the Tom Hopkins boot camp and all the Zig Ziglar stuff, and all the stuff from the guys who really pushed out sales technique. And I ultimately concluded that the difference between a professional salesman and a con man is not the technique; it's his own integrity.
That makes a lot of sense. And why do service businesses? It's almost like sometimes they feel bad for trying to sell that $1,000 package to that homeowner, or they feel guilty for being successful for some reason, and rather than looking at it as them serving the client. Because if you sell a water-fed pole to someone, Perry, and you're rah-rah and you're excited about it, you're helping them. I mean, you're meeting a need, you're scratching an itch. And that's really what all integrity-filled businesses are doing, is we're meeting the needs of our customers. And we don't need to feel bad to sell the stuff that we have.
But maybe they've never put themselves in their customer's shoe to really be able to articulate what it is that they are doing for them. Like, for example, I would like to clean your windows because you go to work and do what you love doing. Hopefully you love your job, right? And you make enough money to bring home some money that you pay me to do the things you don't want to do. I really like that. I didn't say it as beautifully as I can, but it's that basic pitch, is to say, I'm here to give you your weekends back. Yes. I'm here to stop you climbing on your roof and taking the risk of killing yourself or being injured. That's what I'm here for,
Yep.
So you give me that money, and then what I do? I give some of that money to somebody else to do stuff that I don't like doing. I hate mowing my lawn, so I got a lawn mowing guy,
Yep.
So once you get that what you're doing is helping somebody else, you're not just jagging them, because you clean their windows. You're actually giving them clarity. You're giving them their view, which they paid for, when they bought their property or whatever it is, or a sense of cleanliness and hygiene for the mum who's at home all the time. There's
Absolutely.
so many things that you're giving to that person, and when you believe in that, and that you know yourself that you're completely, you have a sense of integrity about what you're doing and how you use your money, and you know what I mean. Then you're part of the community, and that's your function.
Absolutely.
Then you should be able to sell with conviction and upsell. Like, upselling is everything, by the way. Like, that's certainly since Groupons and stuff like that. I mean, upselling is what it's all about. The initial price is often quite low in the service industry to be able to win your way in front of the people.
Mm-hmm. Yep. There's a lot of good in what you said, and if we view ourselves as providing a service to scratch an itch, that's an analogy I like to use a lot, but really it's an emotional connection. This can sound cheesy, but if you think about it, it's absolutely true. When you clean someone's carpets or you clean their windows, you literally create an emotional trigger in people. They feel happy and good. They feel relieved because they couldn't even do that themselves, and you're providing that service. And for an attorney who makes $200 an hour, he's not going to come home and spend 12 hours trying to clean his own stuff when you can do it in 2 hours for $100, right? So the point is we need to be confident in what we're doing, and feel good about what we're doing, as long as we really are doing right by people.
Yeah, that's it. And the beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. The value is in the eyes of the customer. Like one of the things, I had a friend who was doing the Google AdWords for a carpet cleaning chain in Australia, and what he worked out was that basically words like quality and experience and professional worked in the AB demographics, the higher paid demographic areas, and then words like cheap and fast and good, kind of words like that worked in the CD demographics. So the other one is to try and understand that, where the customer's at and what's important to them, and then, have an offer for them which meets where they're at, as you get to understand them.
Well, let's talk about risk for a minute, because I know buying equipment is risky. I took my business, Perry. I don't think you know my background, but I started a company with really nothing. I mean, I had a ladder strapped to the roof of a Chevy Cavalier, which is this tiny little crappy car, right?
Right.
And, through trial and error, through being mentored by people that cared about me, and through, learning from people who have done it before me, I grew a really nice sized business. And one of the things I learned early on was that investing in my education, investing in equipment, investing in systems is super critical, but it hurts when you do it. Like, there's pain involved. I remember when I bought my first water-fed pole, it was like that knot in your stomach kind of feeling. How do people understand if they're making a good buy on something, not just water-fed poles, but in general? How do we take that risk to prop ourselves up to be able to go to that next level in our business? How do we know what's right?
Oh, it's a huge question, isn't it? I think that the real answer sits in ROI, like the term return on investment. That's where the real answer is. So you've got to be able to think about, how that thing's going to work for you. And I'm very passionate about the 80-20 rule. There's some great material out there that, the 80-20 rule is really the founding rule of all business. You make all of your decisions based around, what matches 80% of the work that you're doing. So if you can find a tool that'll leverage 80% of your work, and then you've got to deal with the 20%, then that 20% should be dealt with as an exception, so that you're going to get return on investment on your 80% because you're going to use it 80% of the time. And that's one of those bugbears that I always had was water-fed poles. When they're a 6-story water-fed pole, somebody could pay $2,500 for it, whatever we did back then,
Mm-hmm.
But it was only a 6-story pole, but only 1/6 of that building is 6 stories. 1/6 of it you can reach without a pole at all. Like, it's ground level.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So
Yep.
being able to understand what 80% of your carpets are, what 80% of your windows are, what 80% of the surfaces that you clean are, and then buy your equipment to match that. And then if you're lucky, you'll have a product that'll be able to be adjusted to cater for the 20%. That's how we've designed the reach it poles, but it may not always apply to carpet cleaning or other things. You might need to go down to a higher place and hire the equipment that'll do that 20% of work that's not your core business.
Right. Well, that makes a lot of sense. And this plays into one of the things I teach in my business systems courses, Perry, is you need to build business systems around the general rule, not the exception. People get hung up on that, well, but what if this happens? Well, who cares if that happens? Or what about on the second Tuesday of the month if I have this scenario? Who gives a crap about the second Tuesday of the month?
Exactly. Like we get it with the poles. Every guy wants the longest pole.
Well, that's kind of
metaphoric.
Is that a coincidence?
As long as you get told you've got the longest pole, you're fine. But
oh, that's funny.
But it's kind of funny that we just see that, and I've got so many guys online who've just always thanked me and said Perry's always talked me out of buying a Pro and talked me out of buying this and talked me into buying a Mini and all that, because it's the right one. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. We small business owners have one of two extremes. They either do nothing and they're super cheapskates, and then they complain why their business sucks and they don't have any sales or revenue because they won't spend a penny on anything. Or they go maybe to the other extreme where they don't even have a customer yet and they cash out their 401k and buy a truck mount and buy a $50,000 carpet cleaning machine or something.
And leave no money for marketing.
Right. So, I mean, gosh, there's so many things you can screw up, but I can tell you this, and you probably agree. If you just don't quit and you stick with it, I mean, you don't have to be perfect at this stuff to succeed, but people kind of quit the band before it gets a record deal sometimes. They don't stick with their business long enough to come out the other side and really have that success. Sure.
And I think that there's a key part of that, and that's to make sure that your overheads are as low as possible for as long as possible. I think that's 100%, what makes or breaks a business. People are better to keep their full-time job, and in the States, there's a lot of guys who are window cleaners who are firemen, or were firemen, and that makes just complete sense. Keep that fireman job for as long as possible, and build the business up to the point that you don't have to draw from it, so you can reinvest your money into it, get it up to a critical mass of money and turnover that you can draw from it what you need, but for as long as possible, draw as little as possible from it, and work it from home, and use a secondhand vehicle, and put a bit of a wrap on it so it looks prettier than what it actually does, or whatever, but just keep everything, no leases, no commitments into the future with the money that you know you're going to earn.
Yep.
That you may not.
Yep, absolutely. People sometimes get too caught up with their ego rather than what makes logical sense, and they want to have this fleet. We only bought used vehicles. I mean, if I spent more, I think out of my entire history in my company, we ran like 8 different crews at the end, and I think our most expensive truck that I bought was like $12,000, and that was like a nice truck. Like we didn't spend nothing of it. I didn't care about that. We cared about top line growth, making more sales, building systems, investing in our employees, making people feel loved, our customers and our staff, and that's what the key to success was. And so risk is important, but you have to balance that with your brain. So maybe we should say intelligent risk is important.
Listen up. Now remember, being self-employed is not the same as being a business owner. And if you are looking for a way to automate your business and build yourself a clear path to the dream that keeps eluding you, then check out my online small business bootcamp. It's a go at your own pace, it's power-packed, it's a mind bomb. It will help you understand exactly how to architecture out and systematize your small business right now so you can finally be back in control. Go to windowwealth.com right now and check it out. Use the code MINDBOMB to save 30%. It's time to invest in yourself.
You know, what's the qualifying statement on risk is to expect the unexpected. You know, it's what you don't know, which will come and get you. You know, so you know, you can never be, what do they say, be humble and gracious in victory and defeat. You know, you've really got to stay pretty grounded through risk, because at any time something could come out of left field, and you know, if you go whale watching, sometimes the whale can roll the boat. You know.
Yeah, I've experienced that firsthand. That's a really good analogy. Pride comes before a fall, right?
Yes. To quote a famous book.
I want to talk about something specific, Perry. 2 years ago at the pressure washing convention. Now, for those of you who are listening, Perry is like pretty low key right now. When this guy gets on stage, I saw 700 grown men stand up on their feet, raise their hands above their head, and just completely. You have this crazy energy that is really birthed in your authenticity. Like, it comes because you're authentic. People know you're authentic, and you're fun to listen to when you speak. Well, I didn't make it to this year's convention, but I saw the videos and stuff. But 2 years ago, I was seriously blown away by a speech that you gave called, I think it was called Ideas. And I literally remember it to this day. And I'm not trying to give you like false, like praise, but it literally was incredible. Could you like unpack that? Because for any entrepreneur listening, guys, I promise you this concept, I don't know what to call it. Perry's talk he gave 2 years ago on the Ideas is something we all need to hear about. Can we dig into that a little bit?
Sure. No, I'm passionate about it. You know, we're going to turn it into a product for sure, because we've been testing it. We use it in our business all the time, and I'm pretty sure that it's a major contributor for how I work with my son, because he does all of our graphics and media and everything like that. So he's got to translate, you know, what's happening in my mind and what I'm saying, and he's got to translate it in a way that people can read it and see it and things like that. So we pretty much fight, you know, every second day, if not every day, you know, in the business. And that's another thing. I really believe in conflict, right? Conflict is essential. Two people seeking the same result from a different direction must have conflict. And if you're scared of conflict, then you're really not, you're just not cutting edge. You know what I mean? You're stepping back.
Have you heard the quote that if two business partners agree on everything, one of them's unnecessary? Yeah. Conflict isn't bad. You know, if you've got two people that are passionate about something, that's what produces greatness. Is that rub, that friction.
So here it goes. Here's how Ideas works. It's an acronym. I think that's what you call it, isn't it? IDEAS.
Yeah.
I stands for inspiration, and inspiration is just a sudden mental burst of energy that is just incredible. You know, you go, wow. Like, you know, when they say, sometimes they might call it a penny drop or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, or an aha moment.
An aha, yeah, that's another one. Yep. So, but aha doesn't have it, does it? Aha doesn't have that explosion of, oh my God, that's it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So I really think it's more than aha. And
okay.
And so inspiration is it's the source of innovation. It's the thing that nobody had ever thought of before, and or that you knew of, right? Sometimes you get an inspiration and you find out somebody else is well down the path, but you never had exposure to it before. And then the D is for design. The definition of design is when you bring something that never existed before into existence. So design is not copy. Design without inspiration, design without innovation is copy. Yeah. So if you see what somebody else is doing, let's say you've got a marketing plan, and you see somebody else's marketing plan, you copy their marketing plan. You haven't innovated it and you haven't designed it, even if you change the flyer. You know what I mean? There's design in it. You can say desktop publishing design. You know what I mean? But that's not the meaning of D, design and ideas.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
D for design means it did not exist. Right.
Right. I mean, that's when you get really big market disrupting ideas and
category
huge
busters,
game changing things.
Yeah.
Yes.
You change when they say game changer, that means somebody designed something. Yeah. So it's really important to understand that design is really revolutionary, where you're able to sort of work on this mental explosion, this mental spark, this mental epiphany. Something happened to you where you go, I've got it. Like, this is how my business is going to work, or this is what I'm not doing, or look at this inefficiency. If I could do this, like how much faster I'd be. Yeah, like that.
To be clear, design doesn't have to do with a physical product. Like this could be the architecture of your business itself, the way that you engage customers. Anything that sets you apart is unique, fresh, brand new, and from your own brain.
Correct.
Is that what you mean?
Yep. And the defining point is it did not exist, and then it does. That means you've designed it, right? It's not executed yet, but it means that you're bringing something into existence. Yeah. So yes. Then execute is E for execute. And execute is pretty easy, but most people get design and execute mixed up, and so will you, and so will I. Because sometimes you're kind of mixing the two of them together. But execute is the person or the hat that you're wearing when you're saying, how am I going to do this? Yeah. So that's the basic element.
Well, we should actually put a pin in this E for a minute, because execution is the number one reason people don't grow their business. They don't automate their business. It's the reason they stay trapped in their business. It's the problem for so many things, not just business, relationships. Like, we talk a lot. We learn a lot.
Yeah.
We're perpetual podcast listeners, Perry. We read every blog. We go to every forum. We consume only. We never
create.
Execute. We don't make it happen into the world.
Yep.
And can I just take 2 seconds? I want to tell you something that drives me crazy. So I'm walking in a store with a friend of mine, and we see this product for sale. And the product's for sale, and my friend of mine says, I thought of that 20 years ago. And I looked at him, and I had this epiphany, because my friend, in his brain, actually thinks that he's on the same level as the guy who has that product in existence in the store. And this is a huge mistake people make, right? He's like, oh, I thought of that. That's the same thing. Like he's just as good for thinking of it only, which is only the inspiration part, right? He never did anything else with it. Execution is everything. The other guy, invested his money, got a prototype, hired an engineer to draw a CAD drawing, got a patent filed, went to 17 sales meetings at Walmart while they made fun of his product, went to another one with Target and finally got that, and now it's distributed in the store, and he's finally getting a win. And after all that labor and that execution for years, my friend thinks he's the same as that guy.
Exactly.
It drives me crazy.
There's one of those in my life right now. Unger has just brought out a new product called Stingray. It's a triangular brush for internal window cleaning. And I can show you a video that I made in January 2014. And it's now, November 2015, of me with my prototype of exactly the same brush, right? Which I shared privately with my guys who have signed confidentiality agreements. And I said to them, this is what I'm thinking of doing. So now that it's all in the open, I put the video out there, and then one guy wrote to me, said, so Perry, are you saying that you thought of it first? And I said, it's irrelevant who thought of it. Maybe 100 people thought of it. The question is, who did it? Unger did it, right? Kudos to them. They got it off the ground. Do you know what I mean?
Go. You got to move. You got to move. You got to execute, man. And as a business owner, small, big, or medium, or everything in between, sometimes guys want to be the quarterback. They want all the glory. They want to do everything themselves. And you need to be more the coach.
Yep.
You need to be the guy that builds the team. You're the cheerleader for your team. You're leading the charge. You're putting the things in place, and you're getting it done. And I don't know. I just think the E in idea is just glaring.
Here are the questions that give you E. What, where, why, when, how. The answers to those questions tell you execution. What am I going to do? What's it going to look like? Where am I going to market it? Where is it? Where am I going to make it? Why does it mean anything to anybody? You know what I mean? Like what, where, why, when, how. Those are the execute questions. You write down as many what, where, why, when, how questions you can, and you start to get the execution, and then you do that execution. Yeah. But you can.
Yes, absolutely.
Execution can be this. Here's the beauty of this idea is you can be in execution and not executing. So you can design execution, but you're still in E, right? Because the actual final part is when it gets out into the marketplace. So, but you've got to know how you're going to execute if you're ever going to pull it off the ground, right?
Right.
So you've got to plan execution. Just sort of run out there and try and do something you haven't thought about. Then the A is for associates. Associates is like, who can support me in this idea? Like it might be for distribution, it might be for staffing, whatever it is. And I have another.
It's your team.
It's your team. Exactly, you got it. Because the acronym that I have for A is called FAST, which is FAST: flow, alignment, synchronicity, and team. Right. So as Chris Lambrinides, from WCR.
Yeah,
he's a pretty cool dude. So.
Oh yeah, he's awesome. Did you see online that we're promoting a webinar in a few weeks? Actually, that's coming out. Me and him about.
I did. The last couple of days, I've seen a couple of posts on it.
Yeah, we just started. Yeah.
That sounds really exciting, huh?
Oh, it's going to be epic. Yeah.
So I've always said to Chris, like the whole relationship, he knows that I say synchronicity, alignment, and flow, right? That this is another part of business. That what you're looking for in anything that you do is synchronicity, alignment, and flow. And if any one of them are missing, you have block. And if you have block, you have a problem. Remove the problem. Like it's so important to get rid of block. Block is usually a person, right?
Yes.
So the definition of flow is like the feeling of energized focus, full involvement, and enjoyment that occurs when a person or a group is fully immersed in an activity. Like, how's that? Like, that's what you're looking for in your business.
Well, you can feel it when you're in that. You can feel it when you're in that zone. When you're in the zone and things are working and you're rocking and it's going, and you're grooving.
Now try this. This is the definition of team: a group of people forming one side of a competitive situation. I love that. Like when you have it.
Wait, I got to wrap my head around that a second. Say that again.
It's a group of people. Like a team is a group of people, right? That makes sense. But why are they a team? Because they're forming one side of a competitive situation. Now, that means that you're in it together, heading in one direction, and there's other things that are not going in that direction. It doesn't have to be another team of people, but you're a team. Like you're out there. Like when Google started or Facebook started, they didn't have like anything coming at them from the other side, but they were heading in.
Well, they still had adversity.
Oh, yeah, they definitely had
adversity, and maybe not a competitor, but they had technological hurdles. They literally had to invent stuff that didn't exist just so their thing could work.
Yes. And it was competitive in the sense that there was another search engine. I can't even remember it now. My goodness. There was one before Google. You see these businesses get stuck at 50,000 a year, and you see other ones go up to 300,000 and 500,000 and $1 million a year, even in the service industry. And some of them are even huger, become franchises and things like that. You know what I mean? And the difference is flow. Like if you want to say what's missing, it's flow. You've either got a block. If you've got a block, you're going to stay the same. If you've got flow, you'll grow. And it's nature for the human experience. It's nature for water to flow. It's nature for people to grow.
Yeah, and even it can be a mental thing, right? I mean, I talk to a lot of people, Perry, and I talked to a guy today from Texas, and it's like sometimes people can't really believe in their heart that making more than $100,000 a year is possible cleaning something that's dirty. It's like, for whatever reason, their background, their childhood, they have this presupposition that's hard coded inside their brain.
What their value is.
Where they, absolutely. And getting them to understand that that's completely fake. It doesn't even exist. It's a figment of their imagination. And I'm not minimizing it, because I know what that feels like in my own life. It's very, very powerful. It's a powerful emotion. How do you even flow once you've hit that ceiling? You know, so many of the guys I talk to, they don't even do $100,000 a year. And then I got other people I interview that are, I mean, you have a multi-million-dollar business. Chris Lamborghini's had like $3 million, but what the heck? How do they bridge that gap? How do they overcome that block?
I wonder if it is like, you know, I always see myself as the caretaker of my business. You know, I had a mentor once who said to me, it's like your little sister. You got to kind of, you know, the people are going to interact with her, you know, but you got to try and work out who's good for her and who's bad for her, you know. So I always look at my business where, you know, it's managing director or it's CEO. Like, my job is to make it and protect it and drive it. So, you know, what I draw out of the business doesn't drive me. It's what the business does, and the business's job is to serve other people. Yeah. So Zig Ziglar would say, you can have anything you want if you help enough other people get what they want. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That's a classic.
So you can grow a business. You can draw your $50,000 a year, and there are some extraordinary multi-billion, like the guy who owns IKEA is the fifth wealthiest man in the world, and he still flies economy and drives a Volvo. You know, you don't have to draw big bucks because that means that you've made it, you know, but what you want to do is make sure that the business that you build makes it.
That's a really, really, really profound thing. I hope people wrap their head around that. I used to tell people on my onboarding process, when I'd hire someone, I would like welcome them into the family, and I'd give them this whole spiel, every single new employee, about how you're part of the family now. And when you're part of the family, you know, we look out for you and we have your back, and it's more than just you working for us. We care about you as a human. I want to know your spouse's name. I want to know what drives you in life. And I have this whole like emotional meeting. But part of my conversation, to tie back to your point about the little sisters, I said, on the flip side of that, this business is my child.
Yes.
And I will protect my child. And the number one thing I protect my child from is negativity. Negativity in a business is cancer. And I cut out cancer and remove it. Like, immediately, if I see there's a tumor, you'll be removed. And like, the look on the people's face was so intense. But it was like this, but I was dead serious. I mean, I will not allow cancer to invade my legacy for my family.
Yep.
And it's not about money or the flying business class. It's not about any of that.
Nope.
It's about winning. It's about self-worth. It's about competing, pushing yourself. And it's about your kids and your family and my date night with my wife. That's what I care about.
Well, here's a whole new topic, but there's a lot of, we're in a male-dominated industry, so I'll talk about men. But if you study manhood, like we're really lacking any understanding of manhood, what a man is, what he's designed to do, how his brain works, what his archetypal sort of positions are, you know. So there's an awesome book called King, Warrior, Magician, Lover, which are the 4 archetypes of manhood. And that's a really very good defining book. But outside the philosophies that are in that one is that man is a problem solver. So if we don't have a problem, we make one. So if you want to be a good businessman, right, go, you know, push yourself so that you've got problems. When you have problems, you solve the problems. When you solve the problems, you have success. When you have success, you feel better. Then go looking for the next thing to solve. But if you just settle back and you just go into block and you watch TV, which I'm very anti-television, by the way. Then if you do that kind of thing, you get socially engineered to be ordinary and to retire, right? And then
it's so good.
And then
so good.
And then you don't solve any problems, so then you feel less as a man, and then you're no longer got testosterone, and you no longer meet anybody's needs because you're a soft, you know, easy, you know.
Oh, well, you know that I have a Christian worldview. Okay, this isn't like a Christian podcast, but I'm a Christian, and and I love studying biblical masculinity and all that. But just to throw this out there, you know, in the book of Genesis, God tells Adam, he says, you see the earth, Go subdue it.
Right.
And that's a word we don't use anymore, and it's a super legendary, like Braveheart, this is Sparta, like ridiculously epic word. Like, we are made to club stuff and drag it home. Like, we're made to conquer stuff, build stuff, create stuff, protect stuff. We're made to fight. We're made to get dirty. And that's really what business is. You're so correct.
Yes.
I'm so pumped up right now. I'm yelling. I'm like yelling, and my family can probably hear me because I work from home. But anyway, so I want to keep rolling here because we could just do this all day. But
we never got to S for share.
Oh yes. Okay, I'll edit the part out that says
no,
it's good.
Keep rolling. No, we can keep rolling. It's fine. So the last one is S for share. IDEAS. Share is when you put it in the world. The definition of when something is share is when you can no longer edit it. So it's not when you tell your friends, you're going to do this, right? Because you can still edit it. And that's the defining point about share, is that when you put it out in the world. So there's a famous video from Steve Jobs when he said, when he brought out the Macintosh, we're going to share it, and it's no longer ours. It belongs to the world. Right? Now, he could edit it.
It's a very intimate thing, too.
He later edited it. The Macintosh becomes, the iMac now. But so it's not about whether you can edit it or not. It's that you can no longer edit that edition. In other words, and he has another one like entrepreneurship, service people, deliver service. Get out there and knock on doors, find customers. That's what you do. That's what your business is. Do it. You know what I mean? And print your flyer and share it. You can't edit it. If you want to make another flyer for the next season or the next service or whatever it is, you can make a new flyer. But the point at which you share an idea for marketing or you share an idea for a product, that's when you actually put it out there into the public, where the public give you the feedback whether it's a good idea or bad idea, from their perspective.
Yes. It's a very personal thing.
And that's
it's very scary.
That's the definition of risk.
Absolutely.
When you're prepared to put everything that you have, innovate, design, execute, plan execution, and then, be prepared to deliver execution, find the people around you who are going to help you do it. And then the time where you need what it takes, the kahunas, right, is when you go to share, because that's the day where you face judgment. And that's what people are scared of. More scared of failure than they are of success. How crazy is that?
Yes. It's true, though. I mean, I have a software company that, we've taken a beating on some of the parts of that in the early days. I've been working on it for 3 years, and we've pivoted, and we're really doing well now. But it's been a crazy journey, and it's a very hard thing to create something, release it to the market, and then have it be criticized.
But
it has to happen. It's a natural thing, but it's still painful.
Yeah. But that negative feedback, there's a thread on Facebook today where somebody's going, why is it that some manufacturers, like, if anybody says anything is wrong with their product, they take it and attack that person, whereas there are other ones, like, I know what we are is that we thrive on feedback. We thrive on people coming up with ideas, whether it's critical or inspirational for us. You know what I mean? Because we're not afraid of modifying our product. We're not afraid that we didn't get it perfect the first time. It was perfect in our minds, but we didn't think everything that could be thought. It's like Apple Maps. I'll tell you my theory on Apple Maps. I wouldn't be surprised if Tim Cook's letter was already written. You know his letter of apology?
I don't. I'm not familiar.
You don't know that story?
No.
Okay, so Apple Maps, Apple put out Apple Maps and had all these problems in it, all these little addresses all over the place that you couldn't possibly have found, but Apple Maps didn't guide people to these addresses. So Tim Cook wrote a letter of apology. But I wouldn't be, like, at some point you imagine he's got like 400 people or 500 people trying to check every single address in the whole world. And at some point they must have said, this is ridiculous. Why don't we just put it out there and let 1 billion people test it? Then in 3 months, we'll know everything that's wrong with it. And here's the letter of apology, because it's not quite fair. It's not quite what they expected from us, Apple, but it's the only way to get it perfect.
Wow, that's a really good insight, and that
I don't know
totally
if it's true
applies
or not, by
to.
the way. It's just that's how I work, so it kind of rings true to me.
Well, it makes sense to me, and it can make sense to a small cleaning guy. You could have a little carpet cleaner in Podunkville, Tennessee, and he's scared to I don't know, put together a training program for his new employees so he can scale a little bit.
Yep.
Because it's not going to be perfect, and he's totally hesitating. He should have had it done last year, but then he pushed it off to this year, and now, we just constantly delay. But it's not about perfection, is it, Perry? It's about progress. It's about
But it could be a
putting it
tile
out
cleaner, or
there.
it could be a mattress cleaner, or it could be approaching a commercial customer when he's only ever done residential. There's 100 things that he's scared of. Here's one for you.
Yeah.
Have you ever done this? Have you ever talked to yourself, looking at yourself in the eye in the mirror?
I can't say that I have.
Okay, try that. I do it every time I'm in conflict.
Really?
Because I reckon I'm a really good counselor and coach of other people, right? but I'm no good, necessarily so good, with myself. Like if I'm just thinking inside myself and I never see myself from outside. So every time I'm in conflict, I go to the mirror and say, Perry, right? And I talk to myself. I'll look myself straight in the eye, by the way. But so you look yourself in the eye. But what the reason why it's really top of mind for me is I've just watched the series, the season 1 of True Detective. Have you seen that?
Mm-hmm. I've heard of it.
Okay, it's worth watching because there's one guy, and what he has like a mirror on his wall the size of a quarter, like a circular mirror. And he in this I've just finished watching it today, and this morning because I couldn't sleep. So, but he looks at himself directly in the eye with a mirror that can only show him his eye, and talks to himself.
Wow.
And I really, really think that if you can't quite get out of the vortex, when you get in a spin and you need to do something but you can't do it, so you're getting caught by fear, just call it block, then talk to yourself, because if it was your friend, you'd be able to say, come on, man, do it. Like, what's up? Like, what are you scared of?
Yeah. That's fair.
That's the conversation you need to have with yourself. But you can't have that conversation with yourself if you can't see yourself, I promise you.
Yeah, that's really good. I'm gonna have to try that because sometimes what I do when I have conflict is sort of similar in a way. I take a blank piece of paper and I draw a line down the middle of it, and then on one half I write down all the the one side of the argument or the conflict.
Right.
If I don't of the decision, and on the other side, so it's kind of like a pros and cons. I write down all the pros. If I make this choice, then this is the good stuff that comes, and this is the bad stuff. And sometimes just seeing it, you're like, seriously, how did I even have any block with this at all? It's so clear what I should be doing right now. It
exactly.
Can give
you give it form.
quick clarity.
Yeah, that's another way of doing it. And that's what they call it, the Benjamin Franklin, for good reason, they tell me.
Yeah, that's exactly what I call it. We must have read the same book because I can't remember where I read it, but that's what I call it.
It's been passed down, I think, from one would think that Benjamin Franklin actually did it. It makes sense.
He probably did.
Yeah.
I read his biography back in the day.
Are you looking for a simple way to get more sales, more referrals, and strengthen your customer loyalty? Look no further than sendjim.com. It was handcrafted for you as a powerful tool that will automate your follow-ups after the sale. Imagine being able to stay in contact with your customers all year long by pushing a single button on your smartphone. This is a space-age warp speed technology, and it will eliminate the chaos inside your business caused by trying to properly follow up with all of your leads and customers. Sign up for a free trial with no credit card required at sendjim.com right now. What are you waiting for?
Perry, the webinar that I have coming out in a couple 3 weeks or so with Chris Lamborghini, who I know you've known for a long time, and
Yep. Good friend of mine.
We spent a lot of time making this thing, man, and the focus of it is how to automate, grow, and then set your business up so that it could be sold at some point. I mean, not that you have to sell it, but to build it in such a way that you create an actual asset. And there's going to be a ton of window cleaners, on that webinar. And as we're going through this interview here, talking about ideas, I don't want to put you on the spot with that, but we should do some sort of a webinar just on that, because people have so many blocks. They can't get clarity. They don't know what the next step is. Maybe, me and you could collaborate on one maybe later this winter or something if you have time.
I would love to do that. Ideas will give you a language. Like when we gave that presentation a couple of years ago at the PWRE convention, I had a couple came up to me and said, you've just explained so much about our last 20 years of doing business together as a couple, like as a husband and wife business. And she said to me, it's kind of like you've saved our marriage, not that we're getting divorced, you know what I mean? But she said, what I've just realized, he's the ideas man and I'm the execute, like I do all the doing. So what happens is that he comes up with an idea, he's all inspired and he's got an innovation and we could do this and we could do that. And then he goes into design, because she could, it's such an easy model. He's thinking, how do I bring it into existence? And she's just going, that won't work. What about this? And and this couldn't do. And you can't do that. And what happens if this happens, right? So she's in execute as he's in inspiration, as he's in design, just shooting him down is what it feels like. But she never knew, because that's her function, is execute. But she never knew it had a title, and without that title, without that label, she can't identify her behavior. She's just being her.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're just being team, the way they be team. He comes up with all these crazy ideas and she shoots them down instead of I'm an execute. And he can say, can you not wear your execute hat right now and join me in inspiration and innovation and design? And then we can do execute together because we'll have a better solution.
Well, he just feels like his ideas are attacked, and she just feels like he lives in fantasy land and never wants to discuss the real world, quote unquote. I totally get that. That makes a lot of sense.
And then you've got block, and the block is simply that people didn't understand. So the answer to your question about what if Pitfalls comes down to one word, and that's education. You cannot have enough education. A guy said to me when I was in my early 20s, he said, I'm going to give you a tip. He could see that I was a risk taker, right? And he said, I'm going to encourage you to spend every spare dollar you have on your brain. You know why? Because one day, if you ever go broke, they can take your house, they can take your bank account, they can take your business, but they can never take what's in your brain. And they can never take your kids away, was the other part of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes when you have fear, you just ask yourself, what is the worst that can happen? And it's usually not that bad. If you look at square in the eye and say, well, I could go broke, or I could, lose my house or something, but I still have me. I still have my family. It's like, you know what I mean? If you can face that, sometimes that's enough to get you to say, you know what, let's get this done. Let's move forward on this.
But those of us who have been through it say that most people who have been through that stuff, as long as they've come out the other end, would say that those were the worst times of my life as far as what it felt like, but the best thing that could ever have happened to me. Yep. Because, to have money and not have money is really, really critical to understand money. But if you've never not had money, then you're deluded that somehow it's important, and essential, and that you can't survive without it, but you do. And then you go and get money again.
Yeah.
Money's flowing all the time. It's moving every like the wind, so you just got to put your hand out and grab a bit, or just breathe in, it's there.
Yeah. Well, I had a guy I just interviewed last week said there's like $14 trillion in circulation. If you're broke, it's your own fault.
Yeah, there you go.
You just got to go get something.
Just go get some, yeah?
Yeah, you just go get it, go get it. So
exactly.
Well, Perry, I mean, you brought out like 7 new products this year. I didn't even realize you were selling stuff to the military and all this other. You're doing all this stuff, but I get hung up on this ideas thing, which is its own product. At least it should be. What are you doing over there? I mean, how does this all tie together?
Well, I think that what we do is like we put ideas into action, and I think that that this year we really changed everything about the tool, which is called the water-fed pole, and the water-fed brush, which is the thing which actually cleans the glass. I mean, a pole doesn't clean glass, only a brush does. So we've innovated the constructor brush and the reach it and plus systems and tube runner and all these things, and the credit goes back to that we have a system on how to think. You know what I mean?
Right.
So we're walking our talk, and I think that's really critical. That that ideas is not a book that I read. Ideas is something that it came from a little spark from Kurt Kempton. You know Kurt?
Yeah, absolutely. Good
friend.
Right.
So Kurt just said to me, idea, execute. Right. And I go, wow, that's so meaningful, right? Idea, execute, like that. And it sort of came that ultimately the acronym of, the idea and the execute were the letter I and the letter E. And then I started to understand, and it comes to you like this kind of thing. So I think with Reach It and Constructor Brush, we're really like pushing the line of the 80-20 rule efficiency, and then, allowing an innovation, an idea, allowing a mental spark to happen, and then being able, we've got a machine or a mechanism in our business where we're able to manifest it like rapidly as we become, get a conviction, I suppose is a better way to say it, become more certain, more determined. But we don't wait like 2 years to be determined. We're either immediately convinced, and then we start putting all the machinery into place to make it happen. So it's kind of like, I feel we're walking the talk, and I feel that's why ideas can be a product, because we're an example of it, and people can look to us a little bit and say, well, these are simple things, but he's doing it. Yeah.
That's what it's all about. And people are hungry for content. Like, I have an information product business myself. I sell a course called Window Wealth. I have an online small business boot camp, and people need content. Now, the one thing that bothers me about selling my content is that a large portion of the people don't execute on it. But I think with the ideas thing that you're talking about, which you're using in your business to deploy your own future line of products, which is absolutely brilliant. That could be kind of like the missing link, because I think they don't know how to execute on it. It's like they don't know. Like, I give them all this information. Here's what I did, how, we did $150,000 a month in revenue, and here's what we did, and you can do it too, and I'm not a genius. And they consume the information, they understand the information, but then they sit on it. I think ideas helps them understand why they're sitting on it. Then they identify the block, and then they remove the block, and they can get some flow going on.
And the people they need to be involved to make it happen, Yeah,
right. It gives so much clarity. And that is the number one thing. Some people don't even want to listen to podcasts like this because it stresses them out to even think about the idea of systemizing their business, because they're like, I can't even deal with this right now. Like, I got angry customers. And so they get stuck in that role being a firefighter. They just
no
put out,
synchronicity, alignment, and flow. Right.
Exactly. Nothing there. They just put out fires all day. They just move from task to task with no long-term vision at all. That's really good, Perry. I appreciate it so much. You have such a crazy story, coming to China with your son with like 10 grand and just starting $1 million. Like, that's insane. Like, that's awesome. That's really cool that you're doing that. And
thank you.
I think it's, for you, it's just normal. That's who you are.
Yeah.
But it's not a typical thing. Just so you know.
But we're thrilled. Like, I'm thrilled, because my boy has gotten no formal education, no certificate from any government department. And I said to him, well, this is all I can do, is I can give you an education. If you give a man a fish, he eats for a day. If you teach a man to fish, he can eat for his life. So I said, let me show you. And I've had businesses that fail, like those who know, like, the long history of us. We've had, amazing successes and amazing failures. And, but to have this one and be able to touch it with him and give him enormous amount of responsibility. We've never put anybody over him. He's run all the websites and the videos and everything. And it's a real father to son, gift, to say, and then for whether it's God or the universe or whatever, but for it to work and be so amazing and so vibrant and so exciting, that's he's 23 now, but this is his, you think what he's learned, what he's seen. He's lived in China. He's, started from an idea. He was there when I had my mock-up of the Reach It Mini. We didn't have a website. We didn't have a customer. So
you don't know this about me, but my 7-year-old started a candy machine business. I gave him a $500 loan, and he bought 5 candy machines, and I made him walk in door to door to commercial businesses in our town and read a script that he memorized, and he got his machines located. Long story short, he worked it for 6 months. He made profit. Every Monday he wore a work shirt, a work hat, and it was a grind for him. Like, he would get stressed out. He didn't want to do it. But then there came the day before we moved to Costa Rica, Perry. We sold that company, quote unquote, the 5 candy machines, to some other kids, and they paid my son $1,200 for his business.
Oh, that's totally awesome.
Like, you should have seen the light bulb that went off in his head. It's not about money. It's about, he took an idea that we talked about. Yeah. We executed on it. He worked it, and then he sold a business. You can never take that away from him. Like, the confidence, the inspiration. Like, now he's just an idea factory with all these ideas, and that's what you're doing with your son too. Any parent out there listening to this is absolutely going to relate. What a gift.
And watch out for the idea factory, because the idea factory is good, but only, that's why you need a mentor. That's why the son needs the father, right? is that my boy can come up with a million ideas, but he doesn't know which ones to execute or how to, I mean, increasingly he does now because he's 23, but, a lot of the ideas, the Reach It logo was his, all of our logos are his, a lot of the product names that we have are his, but he doesn't know which one is the great one or which one to execute on, because that's what the old man has, that experience. Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. They need that guidance.
That he will be an idea factory. Your boy will be an idea factory for the next 15 years, but he needs somebody to say how to execute, like you did with him with his first business. Go in there, use the script, and make it work. And then you get the ripple effect. I'm passionate about this as a topic, but the ripple effect, because when I talked earlier about manhood, like you've sown the first seed of manhood, right? So all the indigenous cultures in the world have an initiation into manhood, but we don't. So we don't know when we're a boy and when we're a man, and most of us are grown-up boys. Yeah,
because we have increasingly so, especially now with technology, people not, getting serious about their life till their 30s or 40s, and things are getting weird out there in Western culture a little bit with men.
Yeah, and what happens is the girl has, like, her first period is a moment where her mom will say, well, things are a bit different now, and you're a woman, right? And things are going to be different. And that one small major event, because I know that, the friends that a girl has when she goes through that change in life are usually her friends for life. So it's major to her, and it's influential, and it's life-changing. The boy doesn't have that. I mean, the Jewish religion has the bar mitzvah, so there are, and all of the indigenous people, the elders, like if you watch the movie 300, you see the elders take the boy away from the mom, and, he has to be with the elders and with the men now. And you'll see that in most of the indigenous cultures, but you don't see men making men of their sons. There's no ripple effect moment. So for my son, what I did is he was like 17, and I offered him to pay half of him jumping out of an airplane at 12,000 feet and to go tandem paragliding.
Wow.
Which he accepted, and really, really was horrified. Like everybody else got to the ground. There were 5 skydiving couples. Everybody else is woo woo woo, like this, where they get the ground, and my boy's just sitting there shaking, right? But the ripple effect. 2 weeks later, that was in New Zealand. 2 weeks later, I said to him, or no, 1 week later, because we were still in New Zealand, and I said to him, look, we're heading home. How about this? If I give you $50 a day and you backpack around New Zealand, do whatever you want, I'm not going to talk to you. You can't ring me. I'm not going to ring you. And then catch your flight, back to Sydney where we lived, right? And he accepted that because he said, well, if I could jump out of a plane, I can do that.
Yeah, that's a great story, and it's a huge gift to be able to share your business with your son like that, Perry. It really is.
I think so.
Well, Perry, obviously you believe in educating yourself. You mentioned that you went through all the Ziegler stuff, which is like world class, and all these other sales trainings. Your son, I mean, do you send him to stuff like that? I mean, for me, business education, not formal education, but business, real world, manly, epic education is so critical.
Yep.
How important is that to you guys inside?
I believe anything which, if you pay for any accelerated education, anything which is non-government, not that I bag out government education, but it's rote. You know what I mean? So if somebody's going to run a program like Harrison's just been to Singapore for Landmark Forum, which is a real life-changing enabling program. It's only 3 days, but they're 3 hell of a days, and then he listens to podcasts all the time. He listens to Tim Ferriss, Joe Rogan. He's always coming to me every day. He's telling me, what he's listened to a podcast. And so he's a consumer in his early 20s, but what he's picking up is the wisdom of the ages, being crystallized by guys who are just chatting. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, we have access with technology now. Like I mentioned earlier with our webinar, we can bring together huge masses of people. And education flows so quickly and easily, and there's so much free information. Sometimes it's just overload, but guys, listening to this, you got to educate yourself. You have to learn. You don't have to reinvent the wheel with the systems of your business. You just have to know what to do. And that's really...
It is so much... Isn't it easy just to be able to tap into what other people have done and then get that as your seed, yeah?
Well, that's what I did. That's what I did. I didn't blaze some new trail or something, and Chris didn't either. What happens is you kind of find your way by eventually falling into line with the way that things work for people that have been there before. And with our webinar, that's the point of it, is trying to help people understand where to start, what to do. It's not about the money. It's not about ego. It's about having time to pick your kids up from the bus, being able to go on date night with your wife. That's what business automation is to me. It's not about the systems are boring, right? But what it produces is peace and stability and growth inside your company. And I just come alive when I talk about that. You probably can't tell, but that's the whole point of this podcast, is to help push people in that direction. So I'm pumped about it.
So you've got the webinar. What's it called?
It's called the Epic Webinar. It's actually 3 webinars spread apart 1 week each. So there's 1 and there's part 2, part 3, and it's automate, grow, sell. How to automate, grow, and eventually sell your company, or build a company that could be sold.
And target market, like who are you aiming at? I know like window cleaners would be one, but who else?
Yeah, I mean, it's for any service business, but we're heavily, marketing the webinar to window cleaners just because I know that space. I'm in that business. That's kind of where I made my initial mark.
But it wouldn't make any difference, like to any other business, right? Like any service-based business, the rules will be the same. It's just, there goes another saying, like, I am not my product. Like, I am not a window or a window cleaning, like, you know what I mean? I am me. So the same logic, the same wisdom, the same. It's the same
framework. I call it the architecture.
Everything. I call it.
It's identical. You could have a pest control business. You could have whatever, but the bottom line is there's certain core things that need to be in place, and we're hoping to have hundreds of people on this thing.
Perry, I saw you guys put out like a couple of like little posts. Maybe only 2 days ago is the first time I saw it. Like, how are you going to get the word out? Like what's your execute? Well,
our execute. I do have a promotional map. I use Trello.com. Great little free tool for organizing your thoughts, but. We're going to use Facebook ads, Facebook posts. We're going to put some stuff on the forums, and we're going to just ask people to share it. I mean, I just put a couple posts on my personal Facebook just to kind of prime the pump, and we got about 150 people registered already in just about 3 days. Our goal is, I think we'll probably have somewhere around 700 people is what I'm hoping. It just depends.
But the key to it sounds like, that the first round of people, that if they share, is it? Like if they share it with somebody else,
that would definitely be ideal. Yes.
Even they get a buddy to, even they come over and have a beer and get a buddy to watch it together. So you've got some sort of, commitment, that you're actually not going to zone out on the night that it's on or the day that it's on and find something else more important than your education to do,
Right. Which is easy to do. And I've been guilty of that, but yeah, I mean, hopefully we're asking people to share it, and, because business owners are typically friends with other business owners, and, that's what we're hoping happens here with this thing.
Well, what if we did something like this? What if we put something up like a whoever shares it the most like gets a prize or something like that? Would that work?
Yeah, I mean, you mean like with your
like a
with
product,
Reach It?
Like let's say I put up I don't know, like something like a Reach It Mini or something like that, and you go, because what you need is just like you need it to go viral, right? Because it's worthwhile. Everybody's going to win. There are no losers by watching a webinar. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. I totally believe in that. That would be awesome. I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot because you're getting. If that's what are you?
No,
what are you
I think it would make sense because sometimes people are, like we're all too busy. We're all completely overloaded. So like if there's an inspiration, say, well, if I do this, I could win that. Like it's just that little bit of spark that makes somebody share it. Makes somebody do it. Then I'd be thrilled to do that. So
well, those polls are like, I'm on your website right here. They're like $700, right? That's not a cheap thing. You're totally sure about this? I can edit this out if you don't want to do it.
I can do it because I believe in it. Like, I mean, that's how I became who I am, right? Is by doing stuff like this. So, in fact, an old guy once helped me out. I mean, this is an old story, but I've had it happen twice in my life to me, and I also use it now. And he helped me out, and I said, "How do I repay you?" He was like a millionaire, And he said, "You can never repay me, right? Like I have everything that I want." And he said, "But I'll tell you what you can do is make sure you pass it on to the next guy when it's your turn. Like when you're my age, you do it. So it's cascading, like knowledge and helping other people and inspiring other people should be cascading from one generation to the other, and that's what makes great countries, great communities, great families, and all that sort of stuff. So I feel like I'd be super pleased. But I mean, you said you're looking for about maybe 700 people.
Yeah,
Is that what you're thinking?
that's what I'm thinking. It's hard to know for sure, but we're heavily going towards window cleaners, although we'll have carpet and pest control and stuff on there too. Pressure cleaning companies, a lot of those. But yeah, I mean, that's our goal is around there. We could have more, it just, especially with you with this, I really appreciate this. This could really help.
No problem. No problem. Let me raise the bar. Let me raise the bar because I'm doing my maths. I will guarantee that the person who shares it the most, you've got a way of measuring share, have you?
Yeah, I could put something together for that. Sure.
Okay. So that's the first thing we have to know that they know if they share us, they get the link, right? And then the person that shares it the most, and then I'll put up a reach it mini for the person who shares it the most, and then for everybody over 700, like a mini is 790, I think. So, but every person that is shared over 700, I'll put up $1 of reach it products. So if there's 1,000 people attend the webinar, I'll put up $1,000 worth of reach it. It's 1,500 people, I'll put up $1,500 worth of reach it.
Wow.
To the person who shares the most. How would that be?
I'm taking notes here. I'm super.
With a limit,
I'm really pumped right now.
With a limit at 1,500.
Yeah. Things could get crazy, right?
We'll switch it up to a Reach It Pro, right? If you get that big, yeah.
So just to be clear here, because I'm scribbling, Perry, this is awesome. People are going to freak out for this, because a lot of these guys, they just don't have the money going into the winter. They're freaked out. This will be a major thing for somebody to win this. So in the Epic webinar series is totally free. And
you're running it in winter, right? So it's their downtime. You're not running it in peak season.
Exactly. It's
There's
December 3rd.
no excuse for them not to do it. They could pull a buddy over and get a buddy to commit with them to watch it together at their home, so that they're bound. You know what I mean? That the kid with a snotty nose doesn't take them away from it.
Yeah, I'll talk to some of my nerdy tech friends, and we'll put together a shareable link. So you're saying basically $800 free Waterford poll for the person that gets the most shares, of other people that register for the free webinar. Basically, I just got to make sure we track that. I'll make sure that's tracked, and then if we get 1,000 people, then they win even more stuff. They win $1,000.
$1,000 worth of reach it, and if you get to 1,500, I'm going to cap it at 1,500 because 1,500 is a major success for you. I'll bet. Like for the webinar. Yeah,
absolutely.
It's going to be awesome. And then they can switch it up to a Reach It Pro if they want to at that point, because that's how much a Reach It Pro is, pretty close to that.
Okay.
They could pay a little bit extra.
Perry, I don't know how to say thanks enough for that. That's unexpected and much appreciated. And you're known for this. Like everybody I talk to about you're like, oh, Perry, man, he's so genuine, he's so great. And I do know you. We've talked for a couple of years sporadically, but this is really good.
No, it's the same old thing. People help us where we need to be helped, and we help people where they need to be helped. But the good things need to be pushed as good, yeah.
Yeah, so absolutely.
We're in it together, man.
I appreciate it, Perry. How can people reach out to you if because there are a lot of window cleaners listening to this, pressure cleaning companies too, if they need to get information about the stuff that you have for sale? Cutting edge
water-fed window cleaning equipment.
Right, exactly, and that is what it is.
Yeah, no, they just go to futureofcleaning.com, and there's a welcome mat that sort of drops down. If you just wait like 2 or 3 seconds, there's a welcome mat that drops down, and then there's a downloadable link to our catalog and price list, and then all of our products are available through WCR, of course. Like our friend Chris.
Right. And let's make that clear too, because Chris is my co-host in the webinar. He has an online store, shopwindowcleaningresource.com. All of Perry's stuff is in that store, and that that's where you got to get it, is from someone that sells it. So go to Shop Window Cleaning Resource for the polls. If you want to get a product manual, go to futureofcleaning.com. Wait 3 seconds, and your screen will change, and you'll get a pop-up, a drop-down that lets you put your email in. I'm on there right now. Yes, I see it.
And it is an awesome catalog. We even have a print version. It's concertina. It's like 24 pages. Concertina's out, right? So it's about, 6 feet wide.
Oh, really? That's cool.
It's hilarious. And it's amazing.
Awesome.
And it's pure quality. But the essence, you can see, this is all Harrison's work, by the way. Yeah, my boy. Mm-hmm. So this is his first catalog. So you have a look at it and you go, yeah, that's... somebody wrote to me yesterday from maybe Canada or Australia or something, and said, I sent him a link to the catalog, and he says, look, we got everybody else's product, but he said, I am impressed, to say the least. And I thought, for somebody to write, to say the least, when they saw the catalog, right?
Absolutely. There's a ton more people that were just as impressed but didn't take the time to actually write you about it.
Yeah, but impressed is one thing, but to say the least, right? It means, like, how do I say how impressed I am, except to say that's
right.
not enough, So anyway, go to futureofcleaning.com and have a look at the catalog, and you'll get a real insight into, how we've sort of manifest our ideas and turn them into reality.
Well, I look forward to working with you maybe on this ideas project. I'll get with you on coordinating the delivery of this poll. That's so generous. Thank you so much. People are going to be pumped about that. It's going to help us get the webinar word out for our webinar. Perry, this podcast wasn't even supposed to come out until January. No one knows that it exists, but I'm going to have to release this early just to get the buzz going here. So I appreciate your time, Perry. Are you planning on speaking anymore? Maybe other conventions? You do such a great job at that. Maybe can we see you next year at the convention?
Thad's asked me if I'm going to be there, and I've said I'm going to be there. So it's he's the guy who sets the thing. But we would like to get involved, in more conventions before,
awesome.
While I've got time and energy and passion.
Yeah. Well, everybody, thank you, Perry Tate. Go to futurecleaning.com to get the manual. Go to Shop Window Cleaning Resource to buy a pole if you guys need one or want to invest in that. And I just want to recap the last thing: inspiration, design, execute, associates, and share. And go back and listen to this whole interview again, because there's a lot of life-changing stuff packed into those 5 points in that acronym ideas. Thank you so much, Perry. Take care.
You're welcome. And to you, sir.
Hey, thanks for hanging out, friends. And from all of us here at the Quick Talk Podcast team, we hope you loved today's show. We hope that you were inspired to become a doer and not just a listener. Apply what you've heard today in your own business and watch things change for the better. Lastly, remember that all the money in the world can't save your soul. Seek first the kingdom of God, my friends. We'll see you next time.
For more information about the Quick Talk Podcast or Joshua's other businesses, visit our website, quicktalkpodcast.com. Have a blessed day.